Yo, what is good, my anime faithful? What is good, yo? Here we go again. So much anime, so little time. So let's just hop into this hot stuff, the hot fire. Overall, though, man, there's so much greatness coming with these shows, and it's kind of scary to think of what could be happening in the future, um, just in the overall sense of who and what is all gonna come and just be absolutely ridiculously fire. And in this week's episode, I'm trying to think of what actually I want to talk about first, but in this week's episode of Fairy Gone, um, we learn more on how somebody could pretty much be like pushed to the edge or just in general be put in a position to want to go against everything he's ever gone fought for and have good reason to be doing so. We don't know exactly the reason why this is happening yet, but seemingly after the little information we get from what's his face, our main guy, the homie, he pretty much exposes that this guy who's absolutely nutty on the other team on the mafia, which I think the mafia has both of the blonde people that both of these fairy soldiers are actually looking for. So simu the similarities between the two of the main girl and this main guy now is actually pretty nutty on how this is working out. Um, Not to mention the fact that they're all pretty much in a position where anybody can show up that they don't know about because, I mean, seemingly they're only paying attention to mainly the bigger issues and stuff like that. So finding out that this guy was a part of the mafia was something you would think they have a little bit of knowledge of, or that it could have been possible that they had a fairy soldier. But by the way they go out on this mission, it looks like, and it seems like they had no possible clue that that could even be possible. So that's the type of stuff that really is interesting to me. But they knew exactly where this whole entire thing was going to take place. They knew that um, it's happened multiple times, stuff like that, and yet they couldn't see this being an outcome of something happening amongst their own ranks. So I thought that was an interesting opening way of just showing us a little bit more of what these overall big head characters are like the ones in the background that actually sometimes call the shots. But yeah, we clearly can see that that just by the way they handle this situation and sending in the people that they did, they really didn't know what was going to happen. This man was absolutely disgusting this week and just going in. Uh, I was like, bro, like if you really think you're going to beat this guy this week, that's a joke. I mean, he's literally going on toe to toe with the werewolf by himself with like minimum effort. Mind you, his hands are like in his pockets at this time. Um, Not to mention the fact that every time he is like getting in a fight or he's just defending himself, he's really making all the right calls. Like he's throwing his weapon at a time where he needs some space, and sometimes he's completely just going straight head first, like fighting, because he saw that there was an opening for it. So as of right now, he's definitely the dopest combat person, not to mention the most heartless man I have ever witnessed when it comes down to leaving no trails and no tracks. I mean, the whole him doing the bear thing when he was walking on backtracking on his own steps and stuff was pretty cool, but man, it doesn't do nearly as much for me as him just straight up going in, embodying he straight up goes in, has help from one of his people, right? Like he's driving the car, and because because there's a potential of this guy who's driving the car and it's not him of getting caught, guess what he does? Yeah, you're right. He shoots the guy who's driving, so when he crashes, it makes more sense because we see a moped chasing down this transporter, right? And then all of a sudden, it just tries to take one turn and absolutely just like crashes, right? And I'm just like, that was dumb. That makes no sense. You're telling me a guy who drives for the mafia drives like that under pressure? And then we go inside the car, and this man has been shot in the gut just for safe measures to leave no tracks behind. Um, yeah, I was like, bruh, you are a demon. You're a monster. I just like, holy crap, bro. So there's that guy, that really kind of made the episode for me in a sense. Not to mention, seeing this, they gave us a little bit more on what could happen to fairies, or not just fairies in general, but the people who are controlling the fairies, and if they sustain enough damage, like for instance, my fairy took as much damage as me. I think both the fairy and the human would be completely just jacked up and maybe marked for death. But if it's just the fairy, seemingly the fairy got both of its arms cut off this week during the fight, and that's because of the guy I was just talking about and how strong his fairy is compared to just I guess everybody else's that or everything else she's gone against. This thing had no issues getting in and out um, of a battle with her, and then not only that, going to attack someone else and protecting its own owner when he calls for it because he can see what was coming after him, which was some sniper bullets from the people from afar. So of course it jumps back and protects him. Man, he's this show is ridiculous, guys. It is ridiculous. um, I mean, the one thing about it though is the CGI is rough at a lot of points. Like the frog was looking pretty rough. Um, Not to mention just the overall way that they kind of just jump seamlessly into the CGI from animation. It's like, uh, that's what that looks like. It's like, ah. Um, but at the same time, the show is doing quite well for me. I think a lot could come from these characters, and I think we could probably see a good amount of growth from all of them, but I'm just worried about the overall graphics at this point. I mean, it's hard to watch something that looks really, really bad, or it just doesn't look up to where it should be compared to everything else that you're watching. Uh, and it's only usually during the times where either sometimes it's when you don't expect it, like when they're just talking randomly and walking, all of a sudden it's just boom CGI. But usually it's during the fights, like these end fights where they're jumping around and trying to keep up with all the action and stuff like that. That's usually where the problem occurs, and I can understand that because it's probably a lot harder to capture a lot of these fights the way you would want to when you see other people doing it the way that they want to, but then you have your own budget slash your own methods that you really can't even get into, or maybe there's something the people you're trying to explain to doesn't come across right. There's a lot of process that goes into this, but man, I hope that they really get it down packed and continue to at least have some type of good quality overall battles and just story arcs and stuff because man, if anyone out there is dropping the show for the CGI, I can't be mad at them. I can't be like, "Oh, wow, you're just you're so mean." You know, I can't get you mad. Like it this story, it has me captivated enough to want to know what's going on and who the characters are and why I should feel bad for them. Where, we see that the guy who's a super dope fighter and everything, it looks like his whole entire family's been taken away. He's a guy who used to fight with him, asked where his daughter and mother is, and he doesn't answer, but we see him go to a grave with two flowers on him. So these are the types of things that the story is kind of just not telling us, but showing us. And I like that aspect as well with his character because he doesn't seem like that type of character to be open about something like that just by how he came off of. And I don't need to know much more than that to already know that. So, um, plus to mention the whole just erasing everybody who could potentially give away his position or something along those lines and having the guy who's the main character confirm that he's always like this. Yeah, that's pretty much how it goes. Like the show is doing very well on a lot of fronts. It's just looking at it is the rough part. But overall, hope you guys have an amazing day, night, evening, whatever the case may be. We got a lot to talk about, so I didn't want to keep these videos going for a long, long time. But overall, man, I hope that we continue to get stories like this. I mean, the way that some of the narrative is being explained is pretty fun. There is some stuff missing, that I wouldn't mind them taking their time and talking about. But I don't think, still to this day, I have a confirmation on how many episodes this is, so I'm kind of just going with the flow of what they give me on this show. But yeah, overall, I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did because I definitely will be keeping up with it, even if it's not something that stays on the channel, because people like want to drop it or something. But I'll still check out what happens towards the end of it all. But yeah, with all that being said, let me know how you guys feel about Fairy Gone. And make sure you guys have that notification bell on because I'll be dropping as much videos as I can today, so possibly 3 videos. So I hope you guys enjoy, and I will definitely talk to you very soon. So with that, peace.